What up, YouTube? We are back. Protect your deck. I don't know what episode this is. If you don't know the gentleman that is sitting next to me right now, those days are about to be numbered. This goes into like top 2. And the only other one that I was like excited about like this was the one with Dylan Williamson that we just did, where it's like, this is a selfish podcast. I'm very, very excited to do this one. And usually those end up being the best ones. I have Simon Miller sitting next to me. Well, not next to me, next to me. Simon, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. I've been busy all week, as you know, and a lot of the people who listen to this podcast know. I am moving out of the Colorado area, a little far away, a couple miles, to Korea. And yeah, been preparing for that. It's been hectic, to say the least.
There's a lot of people, not from Springs, but probably from Denver, that are happy about your move to Korea. So today's topic is going to be on a lot of things. I got the privilege of scrubbing out with Simon not that long ago, so we got to talk about some of this stuff over a beer with Wes as well. And as soon as we started having the conversation, I was like, we need to stop having this conversation. I need to have a microphone in front of you because I feel I really mean what I said when I said if you're watching this and you don't know who Simon is, those days are very, very, very numbered. When you came onto the scene, you were very good right away. And part of this episode, I want to be on like how to get good at Flesh and Blood so quickly. And then the other part is going to be, we're going to rant and we're going to chat. You brought up expectation management a lot. And it was something now that I can't stop saying. And it is like, change the way I look at the game a little bit. And I think a lot of people need to hear that. But let's start with, how did you get into Flesh and Blood? And I know these answers, but like, when did you start playing? How did you get into Flesh and Blood? Just like a quick overview so that if people don't know who you are, they kind of know who they're talking to.
So the best way to start this is from the very beginning. When I was about 5-6 years old, my stepmom handed me a binder with the rules of Magic the Gathering, and I read it about 100 times and forced my brothers to play with me. And from there, I developed a fascination with cards and card games in general.
And you were like, how old about?
5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from that point on, I played card games my entire life. It took small breaks here and there, but for the most part, I was playing Magic up until pretty recently. And I always had the Spike dream, the tournament grinder. I've always wanted to be someone who was on the tournament scene, specifically the Grand Prix. Was like, it called out to me, and I didn't really understand what that meant as a little kid, but I definitely wanted to like be there, be part of that. I was a limited player in Magic, so I played a lot of draft, pretty much exclusively. It was all I could afford anyways, as a little kid. And moving from that, I eventually grew up, got a job, traveled across the country. And as I was doing that, I kind of fell off of Magic a little bit. Wizard of the Coast is not great. And just generally the direction isn't for competitive players. And so Flesh and Blood started popping up in the like zeitgeist of card games. I remember hearing it coming out. I bought a box of Tales when it came out and Uprising when it came out, before I even started playing. And eventually I was so done with Magic and I wanted to try anything else. I gave Flesh and Blood a shot. I had 2 Blitz decks. And this was August of 23. I got into Flesh and Blood. I played a game, fell in love immediately. This was the greatest thing that I've ever played. I went to my first armory, It was a Colorado Springs local store that will not be named, but
The Voldemort
everybody,
of armory locations.
yeah. But it was a good experience. I placed in the finals there. It was like 6 people, so placing in the finals was a roll of the dice. But um, then I went to my first Iron Lion Armory, and it was way bigger. And I played against you actually at my first armory, and I just fell in love with the scene there. And the thing that kept me coming was the speak of competitive scenes. The quote that I hear all the time is that Flesh and Blood took Magic's old competitive scene, just ripped it verbatim, and that was what I wanted. That was always what I wanted. So Flesh and Blood having that, and also being the best game ever made, it was a slam dunk. There was no chance that I was escaping this. And so since then, I've traveled to a couple of events, done okay for myself. Um, but I definitely want to look forwards and travel more.
Yeah, so my first experience with Simon was at an armory at Iron Lion, which if most of the people that listen to this, you guys are regulars there, right? Iron Lion is sick. We've had I think 36 was like the record. And this is for an armory.
Yeah.
Our armories on Thursdays are crazy. If you're in the spring scene, come through Iron Lion 6:30 Thursday night. It is always popping off. When I sit across from someone who like doesn't know Flesh and Blood, and I'm watching Simon read these cards for the first time, someone had handed him a deck, and not a very good one. It was Arachne the Huntsman back in the day, and I was on Katsu, killer Katsu. I was like dialed in, but back then, if you know anything about Katsu back then, it's like almost like Dorinthia. If your opponent doesn't know how to block around you, it could be like a very, very tough experience for them. So when I sit across from like someone that it's like their first armory or something like that, especially when I see Simon reading the cards for the first time, if I full grip the natural bonds line, I'm not sending it, right? I want you to have a game. So I'm sitting with Simon, I'm like, oh, we got this new guy. Okay, let me just like show him the ropes. It must have been turn 3 by the time I was like, oh shit, he knows what he's doing. Oh fuck. Okay, all right, let me like put some more gas on. And then maybe 2 or 3 more turns went on. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking lose this game. And I did.
Yeah.
Simon's first armory, reading these cards, someone handed him a deck, beat me, and I was like, well, that's how you play Flesh and Blood. And I was like, this motherfucker just fucking beat me. And then we start to get to know you and understand how good of a card player you are. And I'm like, okay, it's not, oh, holy shit. I didn't just get beat by like just some random who's never played cards before and is reading these before. Right away, I knew, I was like, this dude's going to be a fucking killer. And you have shown that, right? So like you just won SCGcon, got your PTI in Denver in a room full of killers. You continuously show up. The next day, this dude was late, chilling with his girlfriend, runs into the event. The only loss he took in Swiss was that one, right? Because of the...
Yeah, that was the only loss they had.
Makes it to top 8 again. And the only thing that took him down was the... what's the penalty? I can't the
IP.
IP. He got IP'd. Runs in late. You're super duper 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 consistent in a card game where it's even more impressive because it's a card game, right? So when I first started doing the structure for this episode, I of course have to ask, and Elena asked in the bigger chat today, which is like, okay, people want to know this. What translated from the other card games, because most of the people that play Flesh and Blood come from some card game, right? Either Magic. I've never played Magic. I know there's a bunch of people that came over from like Runeterra or TFT, which is not like a card game, but it's like kind of a card game. People play Hearthstone, things like that. You were playing Magic, and you obviously, Simon's got the cards tattooed right on his forearm, right? Like this dude is a card player. He plays card games. What helped coming over to Flesh and Blood, where Flesh and Blood has a lot of unique rules and stuff, but like you were able to pick it up super quick? What helped from those other games or any of those other like TCG experiences that you had?
So I think the big thing is For one, well, I guess starting out, Flesh and Blood is like so different than any other card game that exists on the market or in general. Just there's not really a game like Flesh and Blood. Um, Almost every game that I've ever seen, most of them have the start weak and strong type mechanics, and Flesh and Blood's the opposite. So you have to kind of take it as its own beast. Um, but there are a lot of things, as you've mentioned, that do transfer over. One of the big ones is having a value system, whether it's the same or not, just understanding the concept of a value system and being able to exploit that is huge. Magic's value system typically looks like, in the dumbest of terms, 2-for-1s, 3-for-1s, um, 2-for-2s, and basically you're trading a number of cards for a number of your opponent's cards. Um, and that concept is in Flesh and Blood a point system. It makes it a lot easier, but a lot harder in some instances because the points are kind of nebulous in certain areas. Um, but Magic's is also super It's even more nebulous than Flesh and Blood. So Flesh and Blood definitely has a little bit of an easier time of understanding value. Uh, but then you have to tie in the other aspects of card games into that. So you have archetypes in card games. Those kind of relate to Flesh and Blood, at least in play styles a lot of the time, like control, aggro, mid range. They're not super relevant in Flesh and Blood because games are so dynamic and so matchup dependent that your deck isn't really like a control deck most of the time unless you're like a full stack COIB fatigue deck or like, that's not the exact fit for the thing, but
So you're
you
saying
get that.
you're saying like your deck in an unless it's like completely this avenue or this archetype of deck, you're usually playing across the spectrum depending on like the game state.
Yeah, game state and also just like matchup specifically. Macro is so important in Flesh and Blood because like how do you win a matchup is almost more important than how I play my individual turns. I mean, obviously, how you play your individual turns leads into that, but like uh, if I start the game as new and I'm playing against, I don't know, like FI, and I'm just presenting as much damage as possible versus their damage, I'm going to lose every game that I play. Um, but if I know my matchup and I'm like playing to what I need to be playing to, then you get there. Like you
Yeah.
figure it out.
Nathan
Um,
Crawford just did a video on this, which is why I think it's great when you say something that another pro is saying and it lines up exactly. I know you didn't see that episode. We've been talking about this for weeks, and that episode was like newer. But he talks about like the macro game plan, and it was something that when Wes and I spoke to Cody Reddy, you were there. Man, Wes is like, I got to use the bathroom. And this guy runs in, and then me and you are sitting outside talking, and it's freezing
yeah,
outside. And we're like, this motherfucker is watching the game. And he walked in and he was asking Cody
and then you
Reddy.
watch finals.
Yeah, but that's what Cody
Yeah,
said. Cody said something about like reevaluating. Like I think when you are able to take your deck and do the thing every turn, that's the best. That's like, you get like your blue belt in Flesh and Blood Jutsu.
yeah.
But being able to like sometimes you have to make like the play that's not mathematically or even tempo wise the best one right now because your overall game plan that might fuck that up. So that's I mean you said it almost exactly like Nathan Crawford did. So
I think
yeah.
the word that you use there is like one of the most important things is tempo, because that's a huge thing to understand in Flesh and Blood and in card games in general. But and that's something that I brought over from Magic because you can generally tell how the tempo of a game is going if you've played card games in person before. Um, you, especially reading your opponent, can help you gauge how the tempo of the game is going because if you feel like your opponent is feeling like they're on the back foot, it makes it easier to put them on the back foot.
So this is
They'll
something
make worse plays and
yeah.
other things like that. But even if they're not making worse plays, you just know how the game is operating. And as you learn more about the game, um, tempo is huge. There's a lot of plays that you'll make to gain tempo that don't necessarily make sense on paper or aren't the most value efficient, but will give you the edge in the game because of your macro game plan.
No, that's something that it's in my notes. It took to come back to, but this idea of what transferred over from previous games, tempo is a big one because I remember when we first started chatting about tempo, which is like a word that a lot of people use in a lot of different ways. Flesh and Blood has been compared to fighting games before quite a few times, and you're also pretty good at fighting games. And I remember one time you told me like when you view tempo, you view it as like this bar that's going back and forth between you and your opponent. So like if it's all the way down on my side, I have full tempo, full tempo. If it's all the way on their side, they have full tempo. And then anything in the middle is about like where we're fighting for it. And what you said could be said about fighting games as well, right? Like if your opponent is blocking your strings incorrectly, sometimes you're doing a move that leaves you more vulnerable, but you know that they're gonna react a certain way. And in Flesh and Blood, that happens so often. I always use the Kadachi example. Back when I was playing Katsu, there's so many people that when I would travel, they would just be that even if I didn't have mass momentum, they just always block the second Kadachi, or they never block the Kadachis. And it's like these always and nevers are what get you in trouble. And I would completely take advantage. If I saw like the speed at which you would snap block the second Kadachi, I'm throwing it every single turn. Because as soon as you run out of equipment, you're fucked. You're gonna give me a card when you're not supposed to. Did that carry over from fighting games that you were playing? Is that something that like? Because to me, I feel like Simon Miller, the person, has evolved from every game that they have played and is making it work for Flesh and Blood. And that's something that I've never seen anyone else do. You're able to take these different like ideas and concepts from all these different games and then very quickly turn it into something that makes sense in the game of Flesh and Blood and then use it to your advantage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, if you want to talk about tempo in fighting games, like, you have the concept of neutral, which is like pretty relevant to Flesh and Blood. It obviously doesn't start there, but I mean, you start at neutral uh, in Flesh and Blood. Both players have 40-40 or whatever life total they start at. 4 cards in hand, same amount of cards in deck usually. Um, and so from the jump, you're at this point where you have to figure out how you're going to play this specific match. And usually, if you're a good player, you already know what's going to happen. You know what you're going into and how you're planning on going into it. Because if you don't, at a high level tournament, you're screwed. But it's the same as fighting games. Like, you know how to play the matchup. Um, but you have to start out with your opening moves. You have to gauge your opponent. You have to be doing all these things while you're in neutral, so that when tempo is decided, who has the tempo, um, you can either get it back if you're losing it, or continue to use that tempo to gain more advantage in further in the game. A good example of this is my ProQuest finals. I was down 10 points of life against in an Aurora mirror. It was 39. Oh no, it was 29-19.
This is before or after they had natural comboed you? This is after.
This was after they had natural comboed me.
Okay.
They were running the combo in their deck every matchup, and I knew that. And so,
and just to point it out, Simon didn't lose the die roll. You were the lower seed going in. So Simon not only got it was an Aurora mirror, opponent naturally draws into the combo, and Simon was going first into that matchup. I just want to like lay the foundation for this because for a second, a lot of us thought that the game was over for you. It didn't look good.
And that's fair. But what I did know is that the person that I was playing against had tech in their deck for this matchup. They had Vaporized Shock, and they were also running the natural combo. Um, and they looked like they were in a commanding position. But also, I knew that I was not out of this game. I had my turn, and my deck was going to be more consistent because I wasn't running the combo. The thing that the combo, the downside to the combo is that it ruins the consistency. It ups the floor and lowers, it ups and lowers the
Ceiling and floor,
whatever
right?
ceiling.
Yeah.
And floor, yeah. And so I played the rest of the game without losing any focus or lowering down on like, oh, I'm out of this game, so I might as well just give it up. And I clawed it back, and it was partially on one of my opponent's mistakes, and partially just on good play and them not having as many uh, answers for the rest of the game. But it it shows that like even though I lost the tempo, as long as you continue to play and understand these concepts, you're not out of the game in Flesh and Blood. A lot of the time in Magic, you are out of the game. It's good to concede earlier because there are situations that you cannot come back from. But in Flesh and Blood, there's very few of those. It's like a fighting game.
Do
As
you
long as your life is at 1 and your opponent's life is killable, you have enough damage in your deck to kill them, and you can win.
do you think that that's a negative thing that people take from other card games? Because I've been guilty of it. I try my best in the middle of a game if I'm losing to just take a deep breath and just keep playing the game out. I think I do a pretty good job of that, but you do an excellent job of that. In aggro mirror, where the die roll is very important, and then to watch the opponent naturally draw into this combo where like it's not hurting the consistency of their deck at that point because they drew into for the Aurora combo. If you're not familiar, if you have just one card out of the combo, it's usually pretty bad. If you have a specific card and not the rest of them flicker wisp, it's even worse because that card doesn't really do much on its own. So to watch your opponent draw in to that combo when you were already going second, a lot of us that were rooting for you to win, we were a little nervous. But then if you looked over to Simon at the table, it looked like he drew the natural combo and that he won the dice roll. Like not one time did you show any negative emotions in your face or like hint that the game might be over. Do you think that some people that come from a game like Magic or other games where you're like, fuck, I just lost on the spot. Do you think that's like I mean, we would agree that that's like a bad thing, right? But is it because of those other card games? Like, if you're listening to this right now, the big thing is like, don't ever think that you're out of the game, right?
I think a big part of it is, for one, it's just a person thing. If you get like a bad beat, it's pretty rough to come back from. I have my own experiences of getting tilted and the like. But what I try to remember, and it kind of brings up like an almost a Dunning-Kruger thing, where like the more you know, you get closer to this precipice of like uh, you know just enough to know that this is a bad situation and that you should concede. And then if you knew a little bit more, you know that this is a bad situation, but you shouldn't concede. Because one of the advices that I've heard in Magic a lot, I haven't heard as much in Flesh and Blood, but it is play it to the last fucking life. Like you could be at 39 to 1. If you have cards in deck and are able to play the game, especially at a competitive event. If it's like locals and you're doing nothing and the game's pretty much over, yeah, you can concede. But if it's anything above an armory, like play it to the last life. It is so vital because one, it teaches you that you can always play that game. Um, Even if you're super out of it, like you could still play that game. They could draw a bad hand, you could draw a good hand, and then you're back in the game, kind of. Um, but even if you don't, you still tried, and that's important. Like if you don't try, you're not going to win. It's the most cheesy, corny advice you can get, but it's true. If you don't try, you're not going to win. If you don't put in the hours, you're not going to win. Um, so like, yeah, you have to play every game to the finish as much as you can.
I
Don't
mean,
let
yeah,
your opponent
it
give
was
you
it was
like
dope to watch, man. Like, what? I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like cooler. It would have been fine if you high rolled and won. We would have all been equally as excited. But the fact that like it it made the story even better. And you could be a gangster like the person I was against, and you could have no cards left in deck, and you could still be playing it.
no cards left in deck, no cards in hand, no armor.
Nothing. I threw one of my opponents over the same weekend. Simon walked over and saw it. Completely ran out of cards, no equipment, no cards, and I threw an attack. There was 90 seconds left on the clock, and they were like, "No blocks," and I was like, "What? What the fuck? I know no blocks, man. You have no cards." I was like, "Okay." I had to pick go again on my levels. I didn't even pick the modes. I thought for sure they were gonna be like, "Okay, you have it." That person is a G though.
That's what we should aspire to be.
Exactly. Never quit. Okay, cool. It was really cool to watch that though. And I know that you never thought you were out of the game because I watched you play it. But I know that in the same situation, other people already in their heads when that happened would have been like, well, fuck, I lost a dice roll and they did this thing. And they're like already making excuses in their head as to what they're going to tell everyone why they lost. And there was like not even an ounce of that in you. It was really, really, really cool to watch. You mentioned when you first started playing Magic, you did a lot of draft. If you know who Simon is, he is like a limited killer. Like, it's crazy how good you are in limited. And I know that that is why you had so much success coming into Flesh and Blood right off, like from Jump Street. I've never seen someone, we talk about Wes all the time, but you do it better than Wes. He would agree. I've never been able to hand someone a stack of cards and they play the deck probably like 90% of what the deck is supposed to be played. I can hand you high seas cards that you haven't seen yet. You could take a look at them and play it and be like, oh, this is what the deck is supposed to be. Did draft get you there? How did you get that skill?
Yeah, I mean, draft is like the king of doing that. Uh, when I was 19 and bored as shit, I would sit and play cube drafts on Magic Online for probably 8 hours at night. And I would do that over and over again. I did it on Magic Arena as well. Um, and the thing that you get from that is one, a almost freeing detachment from what I see a lot of Flesh and Blood players suffer from, which is being way too attached to a hero or a deck or a playstyle or something like that. Limited will teach you that if you play enough of it and you try all the things that you're able to do in limited and try to win as much as possible, that you can't always just play the same thing and win. Sometimes you can, depending on the format. Sometimes something is just so broken that you can play that. But uh, my lenient or what I would lean towards in Magic Limited usually was aggro because aggro it takes the tempo thing and spins it all the way to 100. You try to get card advantage by killing your opponent before they can get all the cards out of their hand. And that kind of works in Flesh and Blood too. If you can kill your opponent before they get to see all of their cards, then you gain some amount of card advantage, kind of. Um, but uh, it like I would have to play mid range and control and combo, not as much combo, but in Vintage Cube and things like that, sometimes combo. And you just get an appreciation for the game that you're playing, not really the specific deck or not the facet of the game that you're playing. And so that made it easier to come into Flesh and Blood and play. My first deck that I ever played was Dash IO. It was or not Dash IO, Dash IE. Um, it was the first deck that got handed to me, and I played it pretty okay. Took it to the finals in the armory that I was at, and then I played Arachne Huntsman, and then I played Bravo for forever. because it was all I had. But then since then, everyone in the Springs knows that I am a degenerate, not having a deck person. I haven't owned a full deck other than Kano since sometime last year. And so I've just been borrowing decks for months now,
It's
and
fucked
taking them
up.
to every event.
It's fucked up. It's
And
fucked up, man. Nobody wants to lend Simon their deck because he probably will do better than you on it, and then you have to like swallow that pill of like, hey, stop working. You got to swallow that pill of like, shit. You know what I mean? Like we joke that Simon's superpowers, he plays better on decks that aren't his. The Aurora deck that you took was Wes's.
yeah, it was your deck.
My deck, but Wes
Wes's.
is lit. Like it was the one that he,
Yeah. And the
yeah.
Florian deck that I made it to finals with at our RTN, and got my gold foil with, was Huck's build, pretty much. Almost exactly. I helped him workshop it a little bit.
And like
but
Blake's deck, right? Like Blake's actual cards,
Blake,
but like
Blake's actual cards, yeah.
it's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's messed up, man. Yeah, it's messed up. But like that's what I mean. I've never seen, which got me a lot more excited about draft. And you said we talked about this on one of the last episodes. Maybe the Hot Ones one, where people have been asking me now because I hopped off Katsu. Katsu is the only thing I played. And Carlos had a question in the Discord that he asked, is like, what was the hardest part about jumping off of that? And I say, what did I said? Something like, everyone goes through the experience of losing their first hero in Flesh and Blood, whether he gets LL'd or is unplayable, whatever, right? There's like everyone is going to go through this, and if you play Flesh and Blood long enough, then like your hero will be LL. The first thing you play eventually will not be playable unless you're playing Olympia or Katsu or something like that. They're just going to sit at the bottom of the barrel forever. But it's like this thing that I think a lot of people fear. And I told Carlos, and in that Discord, I was like, it's like jumping into a cold pool, and it's like unknown, and it's going to hurt a little bit at first, and then you're like, oh, this isn't too bad. I've become such a better Flesh and Blood player because I've not been playing Katsu, and you think it's the opposite. You feel like you caught lightning in a bottle, and I'm only good on this hero, and if this hero goes away, I'm gonna have to start this process all over again. And some of that is true, but what you said is like being attached to a hero playstyle is like a bad thing, and I can't like echo that enough. It's like, which has me very excited to draft for the first time since forever. I mean, I also scrubbed out in Nats, and I will be playing in the Sealed Calling, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we will be at Singapore together, and I will have to draft there. And it's one of those things that like, bro, I'm going to be hitting you up left, right, which way. I don't know what the time zone is in Korea. It's not going to matter.
16 hours. About 16 hours.
Forward or behind?
Forward.
You could tell how cultured I am.
Okay.
But it's one of these things that we have Josh Lau from the card guys did this data. They like ran some numbers, and he said objectively the better draft players are better Flesh and Blood players, and it's not always the same thing, vice versa. In fact, it's not, right? Just because you play well in CC doesn't mean you're going to be a good draft player, but if you are a good draft player or a good limited player, it almost always means you are a good CC player or whatever. Like, you're just a good player. Is there anything that you think players should do to practice draft in Flesh and Blood? Like, for me or anyone else that's listening to this, that's like, fuck, I don't have all this draft experience in Magic. It's harder to practice draft Flesh and Blood, but is there anything that like...
This is going to sound really dumb, but just draft more. Like, draft more, because you can do all the like different tips and tricks and whatever, but it's not going to help unless you just draft more. Go on the Runaways Discord. I've used it a million times. When I was prepping for Nats, I drafted probably like 200 times in the Runaways Discord. Probably not that much, but
maybe. I would believe if you said, that's...
and just sit down with your favorite drink, grab a snack, and draft for forever. And if you have a pot of people, that's perfect. Draft in person. Do it as much as you can. because it will be better reps if you're in person. You have people that you trust that you know are good at the game. Draft with them, because that'll bring everyone up. But just draft more. And when you're not drafting, something that I like to do that's fun, kind of helpful, whenever you open a pack, figure out what your pack one pick one is.
I
Every
like that. I'm
every
writing that
single
down.
time you open a pack, figure out what your pack one pick one is. Figure out what your pack two pick one is. If you are already set into a hero, if one of those cards was gone, your pack one pick one was gone. What's your pack two pick one or pack one pick two? Um, Use every resource that you have available to you to be able to draft more or to be able to get draft practice if you're looking to do that. But the best thing you can do is just draft.
I love
Uh,
that. I love that answer, man, because with fitness and stuff, it's usually that simple. Everyone's like, "How do I get a stronger squat?" And I'm like, "You're gonna hate this answer. Just squat more. Just squat more." They're like, "What accessory workout?" Which is kind of fucked up because that's what I asked. That's pretty much what I asked you. I'm like, "Bro, give me the other game that people don't know about that will make me better at drafting Flesh and Blood." You're like, "Nah, bro, just draft Flesh and Blood." And it's like, fine, but it's like it makes
it's the
sense.
same thing. Like everyone wants a secret answer to how to be good at CC. Play more games with CC.
Yeah,
Like practice CC, and don't fuck around in your games. Don't play like goofy games or yeah, play the goofy games because it's the game and have fun. But if you're looking to practice and get better, do the thing that you're trying to practice and get better at. It works for all of Flesh and Blood. It works for everything that you do. But yeah,
yeah, just draft more. You want to get better at CC? Draft more.
do that too. Yeah.
All right, cool. This next part is probably gonna be the rest of this podcast, and I don't know how to word it. And I just want to have a conversation with
Isn't
you.
that your job?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'm fucking up. You know what? I should do these more to get better at doing these.
Yeah.
When we sat down and we had that beer,
Uh,
I said, "How did you get so good?" And you said expectation management. And now again, I'm not blowing smoke up Simon's ass. Simon, when he goes and says this, fuck it, I'll say it here. I think Simon, if I had to pick 3 people out of the Springs that would top 4 worlds, and I'm saying top 4 because we have had 2 Denver people do it. Simon is most definitely in that top 3. Simon's probably the number 1 in that top 3, but that I'm going to leave closer to my chest because unfortunately Simon's on another team.
so,
I can't like shit on myself and my teammates, but he's probably
yeah.
the first. He's probably number 1. And I mean that. I would put money on that. And you said you wanted to, when we were having that beer, you said something along the lines of wanting to be there, wanting to be the best in the world. And when you said it, when a lot of people talk that game, and I don't really buy into it. Everyone says they want to be the best, but then when you look at what they're doing to be the best, it doesn't line up. But what you are doing most certainly does, and your background most certainly, it would make sense to me and my pea-sized brain if Simon made it and won Worlds. That would make sense to me. How have you set that up? What does expectation management mean to you? How have you... Because Simon, you're 22? 23?
Yeah.
Bro, this is insane. You were like, back when I was 19, I was about to be like, bro, that wasn't that long ago.
No way.
But like, this is kind of crazy because most people when they're 23 don't have conversations like this, but they have the other part. Everyone wants to fucking beat Conor McGregor. I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. And say all that stuff. And I don't fuck with Conor McGregor's energy, just to be honest, because I feel like a lot of the people that follow him and himself, it's more talking than anything else. You started talking when we were having the beer about expectation management. I had to stop you because I was like, I don't want to hear this. I want to hear it the first time organically on the podcast. But it's something that I have not been able to stop saying. And it's something that I have not been able to stop thinking about. And then when I say something, I want to do this, I want to do this right away in my head. And I'm fucking 37, bro. Right away in my head, I'm like, are my actions lining up to the thing that I'm saying? And you started to branch off into all these things with what does expectation management mean to you? And what are your expectations out of this game of Flesh and Blood?
Um, so base level expectation management is what it sounds like. It is making sure that what your goals are, what your desires are, whatever you're doing out of the thing that you are doing is aligned with what is possible and what you are reaching to attain. Um, because if I said I wanted to be world champion tomorrow, I can't do that. It's not possible. The world is not tomorrow. Um, so like for one, feasibly you have to do that. Like if I said I wanted to be Pro Tour champion at Singapore, yeah, that could happen. Is it likely to happen? Probably not. But I'm not going to stop myself from believing that I can be Pro Tour champion because that's what I aspire to do. And if that's my goal, then as I said in the definition, I have to align what I'm doing, and as you said, I have to align what I'm doing to what my goals are, my expectations are out of this game. So my goal going into this was to qualify for an event. That was my very first goal. That was not my end goal in Flesh and Blood. My end goal in Flesh and Blood has always been to be the best player in the world. Um, I think for most pro players, if you want to really compete, that should be your end goal. It doesn't have to be a time specific or like a thing that you have to attain at any specific time, but either aspire to be the best player that you can be or aspire to be the best player in the world, which could be both. You could aspire to be the best player you can be and hopefully be the best player in the world. It doesn't matter how you do it, your goals. But I've always aspired to be the best player in the world. And how am I doing that? Well, for one, it's learning as much as I can, as fast as I can about the game. I want to know everything, every aspect, every little nook and cranny about the rules, the things like that. Um, a part of my goal in this eventually is I'm going to get my judge uh,
The cert.
certification.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be certified in the rules because then I actually know that I understand that. That's part of my stepping stone. But every facet of the game is a large undertaking, and so you have to find people to learn from. Um, and I've taken huge advantage of the Colorado Springs community. There's so many people here that I could mention, and I probably will at the end of this episode. But taking advantage of that knowledge and using that to propel myself even further has been part of that expectation management because I don't ever want to say that I'm going to be the best player in the world and then not act like it. That isn't where I want to be. Um, and sometimes I've definitely stumbled or strayed, but for the most part, I've been heading in a consistent direction. And I think that a lot of players don't head in that direction or are headed generally in that direction, but could be a little more focused, myself included. I think these past couple of weeks, I learned a lot about how to practice. That's a huge thing because there's so much data available. You hear all the pros talk about it all the time. Is there's so much data available, and most people aren't taking advantage of it. Um, you can take matchup win or matchup percentages from Talishar. You can take games that you run into other people. Um, you can take all of that and write stuff down and use that knowledge. Um, and if you want to be the best player in the world, if you want to be a better player, the good place to start is start taking advantage of all the things that you have available to you.
I like that you talked about leaning into other people because you are very good at that. I think I'm very good at that. I don't think I'm naturally good at much. I think I'm one of those people that I'll bash my head off the wall for a few times and then it'll start to click. But I do think that I'm very resourceful if I was going to say like what I'm good at as opposed to what I'm bad at. And I think you do a very good job of that as well. I mean, for one, Simon was the only non-team member at our practices like every single time. There's not a room in the world that wouldn't want to have you there for reps. And what you give back to those people is like incredible. We say this all the time. Me and Wes now say it to each other all the time. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with the team. And I think that these last few weeks that you have been here have really showed that, because the more I open my book to you, the more I get back. And it's like this weird thing because you feel like it's selfish, but also selfless. It's like if I give Simon every piece of advice that I know, it feels selfless. But if I do it because I know he's going to give it back to me, it feels selfish. And I've got to the point where it doesn't fucking matter what it is. It makes everyone better. So like leaning on your locals is huge. What are you going to do when you're in Korea, man?
There will be new locals. They won't be the Colorado Springs locals. I know that I will be missing out sincerely. I mean, you specifically, all the people in the Springs, just like have been more welcoming than any card game scene I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen a lot of them. And I mean, I'm hoping that Korea has a pretty decent scene so that I can fill the gap, but I'll just be counting down the days until I'm back. There's no flesh and blood like Colorado.
It works both ways, man, because I'm envious of the Koreans that you're going to be playing with, because I know like how valuable you are to the scene. And it's not even a question of like, are they going to pick up on that? It's obvious. It is obvious. You're going to go to whatever scene and you're going to instantly make players better that you share the table with. And again, I think this is like such a big part of why Flesh and Blood is great, but also like we play in Colorado. I have never seen a player hop into the scene and have the results that you have had as quickly as you have had them. I have never seen that. It was very, very obvious that it was like, yo, this kid is something special. I say kid because you're a lot younger than me, but not because of maturity or anything like that. I was like, this man is going to be very fucking successful. And it was obvious. It was so obvious. And it's like that thing, like that aura, whatever it is, it's intangible, but you're witnessing it. You don't even know what you're really witnessing. And I think that so many people can learn from that, because the more you give, the more you get. And I'm not like a big energy person. I'm not like a big meditation, centering my chi type of thing, whatever you call it. Maybe I should be. You've given so much to the scene, and it's like you've gotten, I hope, at least some of that back. And players, I think, too often try to hide the tech, or they're working on this thing that like, oh, I don't want anyone else to know. And it's like, man, that shit's gonna work one time, and one time only if it works at all, and you're not a better player because of it. You're able to share everything to the point where it's like, Simon's not gonna do anything to me because I know everything. We've discussed this. He knows exactly what my game plan is, and I know exactly what his game plan is. But the fucking magic that comes from that like everyone levels up, is insane. If you feel like your scene is like slacking, or the players in your scene are not getting better, how often are you sharing everything with the players that you have like at your disposal, like the locals that like you're playing with? How often are you sharing information? And if you're not, or they're not, it's fucking right there. The problem is right there. Like Simon, that leaning on teammates and players and everything, it's been working. I mean, it's amazing to see what your team is doing now that they know that they have to pick up the slack. Blake top 8'd the last thing. I think he top 8'd the thing before that. Justin met me in the finals of the PQ Plus. Like, even with you not being there, everyone's like, fuck. When I walked over to Blake, I was like, yo, it was the day, I think the day that you won SCGcon. And I looked over to Blake and I was like, man, fuck. And he was like, dude, I know, right? You guys are on the same team. He was like, bro, we're losing our LeBron. And I was like, yeah. And he just looked at me. He was like, we got to pick it up. And in like 2 weeks' time, I think the turnaround since then has been night and day. Justin was like a little bit beat up at SCGcon. And then dude just ran everyone over with his Florian at the PQ Plus and met me in the finals. Blake was on Fang, made it to top 8. I think it's amazing that like we need to be sharing more in this game.
I think that's a big thing I've noticed even in our scene. There's been struggles with like sharing information and the idea of like hiding decks and things like that. And if it works for you, it works for you. That's your style. But my thought process is if I don't share my thing and they don't figure out the counter to it, then I can't figure out the counter to what they're gonna do. And uh, I'm losing already. If I'm playing Prism and I have these like secret text and they bring in Ninth Blade of the Blood Oath and I didn't know about that, then now I'm screwed because I didn't have the information that I could have had. Information is so much more valuable shared in this game because there's already so much of it out there. You're not going to bring tech that someone couldn't figure out. But if you get them there faster, then they could figure something out that you could then learn from. It, yeah, I love the concept of a team. I think that it's super useful to have this group of testing people to test with. But if you're not leaning on all of the resources you have available to you, you're not being the best player you can be, and you're definitely not striving to be the best in the world.
It's crazy because I think most people would reevaluate their goals with something as big as what you're doing, and I know you're not at all. Like, I know you could be moving to the middle of fucking nowhere on a ship where no one plays Flesh and Blood. Like, thank God you're not in the Navy, right? But you could be, you know what I mean? And I feel like you would still do whatever you had to do. And it's cool, man. I admire it. I do. I admire it. I think I leveled up from having that conversation with you and then again on this podcast because, like, say it again, bro. Like, what are your expectations in Flesh and Blood?
I want to be the best in the world. And I think that most people who are competitively minded should strive to be the best in the world. I think that it would do you a lot of good to have some lofty goals because it doesn't matter how old you are or how long you've been playing for or anything like that. I mean, look at who is the current best in the world. Pablo Pintor has won back-to-back Pro Tours. He's top-8'd all of his Pro Tours, and he just plays cool, calm, and efficient every game that he plays. And he plays a lot like I do, where he just gets handed a deck and pilots it super well because he has so many reps. He said it himself, and I think that that's a lot of what people should strive for. I mean, I want to improve in my game by becoming a better deck builder because it's notably where I lack. And it'll hurt me in events where I don't, where we're on a new meta and things have to be shaken up and I have to go into it blind. But I think that if you don't have those lofty goals and you don't have those things to aspire to, then you're not going to improve every aspect of your game. You're going to slowly kind of do whatever and then waffle around and not get there. And I don't want to see that happen to anyone in our local scene or anyone who is competitively aspiring. I want the best competitors that I can play against. That's how I get better. And I think that's how everyone gets better. Play against better people. I think another thing, and this is like a small bit of advice, and it's everywhere, but don't shy away from the people who are better than you. Um, Look to get your teeth kicked in because that's how I learned. I learned a lot in the very beginning of the game, and it hurts your ego a bit if you don't detach yourself from it and learn from it. But like look to lose, look to find those people who can beat you and continue to learn from them, because once you have taken everything that you can from them, you will be a better player whether you recognize it or not.
I love that, man, because it's yeah, I agree. I think I think there's also something to be becoming like hardened or like build a callus up when you lose. Because like if you're afraid to lose, you're in the wrong. You are playing the wrong thing. You shouldn't be playing card games. You just
You just
shouldn't play a
shouldn't compete in
sport.
anything if you're
Yeah,
scared to lose.
go box and then just know that like if you're the better fighter, you will almost always win or something like that. Card games is
Yeah,
like the one thing where like you can definitely get beat by a person that's worse than you, but
yeah,
the reverse is also true. I've
yeah.
definitely
Most
beaten
of the
players
time,
that are better than me.
yeah, most of the time you won't lose to someone who's worse than you. But it is a card game. We
No.
play it because there's variance, or part of the reason we play it is because there's variance. We play Flesh and Blood because there's low variance. It has a very high skill ceiling, high like level of, if you pilot very well and make the right decisions, you will most of the time win the game. Um, but sometimes you just get lucky. I mean, it's a card game, and that's fine. But don't let the luck take away from anything that has been said here. Don't let the luck like shy make you shy away from actually losing and learning from your losing. I've seen it in a lot of players that will blame luck for every loss that they take. Um, and most of your losses aren't luck. Almost all of them. Uh,
Yeah.
there's something that you did wrong. Whether or not it actually lost you the game doesn't really matter, because that's not learning. Not learning to say you got high rolled. What could you have done better to avoid that high roll or come back from that high roll or play hot in that game? Because if it was that way, Germany wouldn't have let us play Flesh and Blood in Germany. If it was that way, Hamilton wouldn't keep winning, Pablo Pintor wouldn't keep winning. You know, there's so many players who regularly show up in those leaderboards, and they're not just getting lucky every time.
Yeah. No, they're most certainly not. And for what it's worth, I used to say that shit all the time too about me wanting to be the best in the world, and now I compare my actions with what you do, and it has like humbled me. I still want that, but it's most certainly made me change my it made me look inward at like my expectation management. I can't be saying this and not doing these things. You've made everyone in the scene work harder, like myself
Yeah,
included. It's real cool, man. Fuck, dude. We're gonna miss you when you go out to Korea, man. Oh,
yeah.
by the time this
Really
gets
excited
released, you
about
will be out there.
it. Fly out tomorrow.
So it will definitely be. You will definitely be out there.
Yeah.
I asked Dylan this last time when I did it, and I think this is. I'm gonna start doing this. I'm at least gonna start doing it with guests who I think are interesting and I can learn from. So hopefully it's everyone that I bring on this show. What's your number one gifted book, or if you were going to gift a book, one book, what would that be? It could be
Um,
completely not have anything to do with Flesh and Blood.
yeah, mine doesn't. If you've, I don't know how many people have read this. There was a terrible Disney movie that just came out not too long ago, actually. But it's about the Artemis Fowl series. Um, it is a like a young teens book. It's a fantasy book, and it was my favorite book series as a young kid to a teen. Just about a young criminal who discovers the fairy world and takes advantage of that in every way he can. Um, Very good book series. I'd recommend it to anybody.
I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it. I got lucky because the one that Dylan recommended, I've already read.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Fuck, I need more books in my life." Dude, this was awesome. I'm gonna have to have you back on
Yeah.
after Korea because I just feel like I wanted to do like an intro and like let you tell your story, and it's just like you're gonna continue to win things, which is going to make people more excited. It's like when you find the band before they have their smash hit, and you're like, "Holy fuck, guys, these guys are about to." I feel that with you, like for real. And I've had a bunch of people. We play in the scene with a lot of good players, like a lot of good players. There's a like, this is just like, you're like on the verge, and you just got to keep doing what you're doing. And I'm just fortunate to be part of that process in any which way. I can't wait so I could be like, yo, see that dude sitting at the finals at Worlds? Like, that's my homie. Like, yo, Simon! I told you I know him. You know what I mean? Like, I really do in my heart feel that way. So it's like, yeah, man, Korea is going to, Colorado's taking an L, and Korea, they don't even understand the I would say the type of player, but the type of person that's going to enter their scene. It's going to be a long year. Hopefully it doesn't feel as long as I feel like it might. But goddamn, it's going to be nice to see you in Singapore, bro.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Before we move to the end of this, I want to give you like the podium a little bit. Shout out whoever you want to shout out, and you know, like a little bit of how you're feeling going to Korea.
Yeah, I'll start with Korea first because shoutouts are going to take a little bit. But going to Korea, I'm a Korean linguist by trade. It's my job, so I'm excited. It's been something that I've been looking forward to at some point in my career. And I I think it sucks to leave behind the life that I've set up for myself here, but it definitely will be a good experience. Being able to travel and do a lot of I don't know, exploring and learning about myself in a separate country. And in Flesh and Blood, that's gonna look like, how do I take advantage of the resources that are here? Because it's a smaller scene. Just the country in general is like the whole scene, from what I understand, and most of it revolves around Seoul. So I'll be taking the hour train ride up to Seoul every couple of days or whatever.
Dude, you're going to be winning every event out there.
That's possible. I hope not. I sure hope not.
I hope not for you too, but I just think I know the caliber player you are. I hope they have some killers out there, man.
Yeah, I want to meet some really really good players, and I'm sure there's tons in Korea, or at least a good few. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at. And then while I'm there, obviously going to Singapore and competing in Singapore is super exciting. I'm super stoked for that. And then trying to get some other events while I'm there. I was thinking about doing Auckland because that seems like just a sick event to go to, but we'll see. But in the name of shout outs, for one, I got to start with well, let me start with a shout out to you because you brought me on here. You've been, I mean, just a keystone of the community here in the Colorado Springs area. Since I got here, there was no one in the room more excited than you to be playing Flesh and Blood. There was not a single person. I don't think I've ever met someone more excited to be in a room than you are. And that is contagious. I mean, it spreads to the rest of the community. Everyone is crazy and about Flesh and Blood because you're here. After my shoutouts, I have a question for you.
Hell yeah.
That's me being selfish. Second shout out is going to be my team. I didn't mention this when I first got on here, but my team is the Iron Rot Raiders. They are the second team in the Springs, because Blood Rush Fellows just kind of embodies the Springs, but Iron Rot Raiders is getting there. We're taking things seriously. We just shot up to 8 members just recently. It started out with 3, myself, Blake, and Dylan. And since then, when we first started, we added Justin. He's kind of taking the second main role with Blake right now because I won't be here. I won't be able to help the team as much. And then we have all of our new members that were here or that are coming up in the scene. And it's just a big shout out to everyone on that team and what I think they're going to do while I'm not here. I want to come back, and they are the craziest group of killers you've ever seen. I want to come back and get my shit kicked in every single round because I will learn so fast how to get back at them.
Yeah.
And the same with Blood Rush Fellows. I mean, everyone on that team has been fundamental to my learning in some way or another. Specific shout outs to Wes and Tuck, who really took me under their wing. And I mean, there's so many experiences. Tuck taught me basically how to play Flesh and Blood. We were both playing Guardians at the time. He was the Guardian main for a long time. And one of my pivotal moments in Flesh and Blood was finally winning a Guardian mirror against Tuck at Petrie's Armory playing Bravo fatigue bullshit.
It's a feather in your cap, though, man. When you take one off of him, it feels good.
Yeah. And then things have since then exploded, and we built a Florian deck together that became the RTN winning list and my RTN finals list. That's a lot of the scene. Is just those two teams have been fundamental, and then the stores that are nearby, Iron Lion and Petrie's. Shout out to them because those are the testing grounds for everything that we have learned. Dungeons and Javas as well. So on to my selfish thing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, just wanted to say this before you move on to the question. At the PQ, half the top 8 was Iron Rot Raiders. Literally, half of the top 8 was Iron Rot Raiders. So, like, yeah, Springs is coming up.
Yeah. And so on to my selfish thing. I've been thinking about making content. And specifically for our team, we've been thinking about making some content. And I just wanted to hear what are your thoughts on how people should get into making content for Flesh and Blood specifically. What avenues, what tips, what angles should we approach?
I think just start. I did a podcast for fitness and CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting back in the day, and I did a lot of bad ones. That we probably had probably close to 200 episodes, and I interviewed pro CrossFitters, Olympic weightlifters, coaches, authors, all sorts of people who I had no right interviewing. I don't know why they agreed to do it. And at the beginning, I was so fixated on it being perfect. I think I did our first episode like 75 times before I was like, just like released it and just did it. I think if you're going to make content, just do it. And I think do it because you love it and do it because you want to do it. And for me, this podcast, like Tuck will do a video on like the 9-0 Florian list, thousands of views. If you look at the podcast, this one, I get a couple hundred. If I looked at the metrics, it might make me upset, but I have already done that. Do the episodes that you want to do, because the amount of people, when it's authentic and you do it, like this episode might not reach thousands, but the people who listen to it, oh my God, they're better Flesh and Blood players. And when I go to these events and someone says that to me, they're like, I listened to this one or I listened to this one, it got me better. Oh my God, it's so fucking worth it. If one person listens to this and gets better because of the things that you said, I mean, outside of me, because again, selfishly, I get to use all the things. I'm asking these questions because I want to know the answers. You have so much to say. I think share it. There's a reason I already said, like, I have to have you back on here. I would love for you guys to do content, because whether it reaches 5 people or 5 million, if people listen to what you're going to say, they're going to get better. And when you feel that, oh my God, there's like no better feeling. I'm not in this to like, I am fortunate enough that I have a job that pays for me to do my hobby. So like, there's people that make content because they have to get paid and stuff like that. And sometimes I feel bad for content creators like that, because you're hunting the thing that's going to get you the most clicks. And I'm hunting the things that makes my soul warm. Like, I'm only doing, if you just do that, I think you can't go wrong, man. Like, just do shit that you care about, and I say if you guys are starting to do it, just do it now. Duran, one of Blake's really good friends, also a friend of mine, does his Street Fighter podcast. And bro, when he reached out to me, when he started it, he was like, I want you to know it's not flesh and blood, but I started my podcast because I watched you start yours. And I was like, why the fuck can't I do this? Why the fuck can't you? Like, and I don't mean you, I mean anyone. If you're listening to this and you want, just fucking do it. Just do it. There's so much bad shit out there. Who gives a fuck if it's like not perfect? Like, there's so much stuff out there that's like not this. I did this because I wanted to, and because I feel like there's a void for actual, not a big void, but like not all flesh and blood content is created equally. Not everyone has your best interest when they're going to do an episode. I'm asking Simon questions that are going to make you a better flesh and blood player. The episode that I did with Dylan Williamson, if you listen to that and you use it, you will be a better player. All the stuff that we do is meant for that. So like the homies that listen to it and they're local, that's all I care about. I think you have so much to say. I think if you're asking me my honest opinion, I think you and your team definitely should be making content. And I would just start with what feels right and just put it out there, because myself, along with a handful of other people, and hopefully more than that, are going to get so much out of what you guys give back to the scene. And then it goes full circle. Like, then you become better. And like, I love this shit, man. So like, I hope you guys start making content.
I plan on it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make my YouTube channel probably when I move to Korea, and get it up and rolling, because I think there's, for one, a lack of content at the armory level is the big thing. Being able to either talk about armories or talk about like specific things that you learned at that armory that could be helpful to people. And for the competitive scene, which would be who I would appeal to, because that's most of Flesh and Blood and most of who I interact with in the Flesh and Blood scene. I think there's due for some more limited content. I think there could be some more drafting content for sure.
Please, bro.
Like a podcast, and Arsenal Pass does their thing every so often, but you know,
Yuki has hers, and Yuki's is really good with the limited stuff. But that's the only one that's out, man.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, please. Like, sign me. Yeah, hell yeah. I think, and just do it. That's like the biggest advice. Just do it. Don't make it perfect. Just do it. Because like you said before, the general you, your first episode's probably going to be pretty shitty. But the only way to get better is to just do more of it and figure it out. If you look at any of these podcasts, even this one, you've watched it grow. Tuck on the one take deck text now is amazing. If you watch this first one, it was not amazing. It was still pretty good, but it wasn't like, now the dude he could shit out a one take deck tech video and it's golden. Those videos are the ones that are getting the most views. His videos are really good. So I think just do it. And if you're listening to this, just do it. Like, just do it, and you kind of figure it out from there. Man, you got me so pumped. I'm excited to see what you guys put out. Justin's gonna be on this podcast like the next episode, but I don't know when it's gonna get released. I'm gonna have Justin on there. Now I gotta snag all you guys up before you guys start doing your own thing. Yeah. I've already had Blake on it too. Fuck.
Yeah.
But oh man, I had Susan come and pour me a beer, because you're gonna be missed, man. The scene is not gonna be the same without you. We are definitely gonna have to. I might bring a camera and just do live shit when we're in Singapore. Only reason wanted to win the Pro Quest is because I already knew that Simon was taking his PTI that he won at SCGcon. He was going to go to the Pro Tour for Singapore because he's going to be closer to there. Wes and I were, and Wes still has next weekend. So hopefully we have good news, but that's still the game plan. I'm going out there regardless. Me and Susan are booking the vacation. I was like, if Simon's out there, that's say less. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to play with you. So
Singapore, there's tons of stuff to do there. I'm excited to spend time in Singapore.
Yeah, yeah. Those trees, that one garden of something.
Yeah.
They got like the mega trees that are huge. I'm excited, man. We're definitely going to have you back on. I look forward to the content. As soon as you guys start making it, let us know. We're going to blast it everywhere. I'm going to be watching it. Please do
live podcast in Singapore.
Please do limited. That's what I'm saying. Let's do it. Simon, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been a pleasure watching you grow in the scene. I can't wait to see what you continue to accomplish. And again, if I was a betting man and I had to put money on it, I would say within the next 2 years, I will see you at Worlds. I will say not because you're not going to Philly, right?
I don't know.
I would say the next two. I expect to see you there. Like I expect to see you on the big screen doing well, man. Like I don't say you. I've done a million of these episodes. I've not said that about anyone. So, expectation management, draft more, align your goals up to the shit that you're actually doing. Surround yourself with better people and share everything with them and watch how it comes back because dude, you haven't been in the scene for quite that long and you're already winning all this shit. It's like mega impressive.
Playing for a year and a half.
Yeah, that's great. I can't believe we've gone an hour and 15 minutes and haven't said that part. You have been playing this game for a year and a half?
August 2023, so a year and 8 months, something like that.
That's wild. Qualified for Nats, won SCGcon in a room filled with, I don't even remember how many people were in there, a bunch of killers.
80 something, yeah.
And then top 8'd the next day, and the only L you took in Swiss was to a penalty. Alex made you late.
Yeah. I love my girlfriend. She's wonderful.
She is. She's great.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Can't get up to save her life.
You were up too. I remember you had to move the car. I was like, is he coming?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we're gonna keep tracking your journey. This has been awesome. So I appreciate you. And yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see you out in Singapore. I'm gonna bring some gear out there, so we'll record something out there.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. I'm gonna miss you.
I'm gonna miss you too, man.
I'll see you, bro.